Good afternoon, you guys. It's your boy Bill Mahari here, represent Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Major salute to the entire LDBC and the basketball community. Um, this was already a story that was already been broken early this morning, but I'm decided going on to discuss about it right here and now, guys. Um, the Brooklyn Nets have agreed to mutely I should say it like this. They agreed to partly part ways with their coach, Kenny Atkinson, today. Um, basically, they kind of decided that it was basically time to part ways with each other. You understand what I'm saying? And the thing is, you see, and the thing is that they just felt like they needed to go to a different direction, and so therefore they've kind of just decided to part ways with each other. Now, for most people, this kind of come across as a shock right now because there's only about 20 games left of the season, and the Brooklyn Nets are holding on to the seventh spot in the Eastern Conference right now. Um, I'm going to give my 2 cents on the situation in a couple of minutes here, but according to some of the reports, to some of the things I've been reading about right now, um, the general manager Sean Marks kind of just said that it wasn't he basically was kind of saying like they just kind of agreed that they wanted to go in a different direction, and they needed he said in a press conference this morning, he said it's time for another voice in the locker room, and that's why it's time to mutually part ways. But he didn't go into further detail about why what went wrong and why Atkinson was not given a chance to give the coach the entire season rather than coach the entire season, and maybe and even next year with Kevin Durant's arrival too. But, I'm going to give my 2 cents on the situation here, guys. I think that at this point, Kenny Atkinson's his word and his message was running dry in the locker room. All right. Now, it's not that Kenny Atkinson is a bad coach. I'm not sitting here and saying he's a bad coach at all, because what he's been able to do, along with Sean Marks, the general manager, was able to revive the Nets franchise from basically a doormat that was basically a pit stop for all bad players now into a perennial playoff team, now to an attractive base where they can bring in top free agents now. And they were able to score the big prize, getting Kevin Durant, despite the fact that he's sitting out the rest of the year with the torn Achilles injury. Okay, and now unfortunately, Kyrie Irving's missed a lot of games this year because of numerous injuries. Yeah, I mean it's a laundry list of injuries that Kyrie Irving's got to go through. But according to some of the things I've been kind of reading there too, a lot of it has to do with this has nothing to do with Kevin Durant and Kyrie at all. It has nothing to do with that whatsoever. It's more along the lines of some of the decisions and some of the things that Kenny Atkinson decided to do that kind of rubbed the players off the wrong way. Now, one of the big ones that I've kind of researched was that DeAndre Jordan, when he was basically signed to the Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant wanted to play with DeAndre Jordan and wanted him in the starting lineup. But Kenny Atkinson did not want him in the starting lineup, and therefore, he put in a younger player in that position rather than DeAndre Jordan himself. And unfortunately, that right there, was kind of the beginning of just the beginning blocks of what was going on. Okay. And then afterwards, though, as the season progressed, the players were not heeding his message, and he was losing the locker room. And unfortunately, in any profession, in any sport, when you lose the locker room, you basically are a sitting duck. I've been there, and it's not pretty. Okay. And unfortunately, that's what happened with Kenny Atkinson. His message, he was burning out the players and burning out himself. And unfortunately, he was not going to be the guy to get them where they wanted to be. He's done a great job of rebuilding the Nets, organization to back to relevancy again. But unfortunately, his time and the message of his words was not running through to the players, and because of the losing that they've been going through right now, it's just that things were not going to work out in the long term future. So therefore, Jacque Vaughn, who served as an assistant for Mr. Atkinson, will take over on an interim basis. Now, he coached 3 years with the Orlando Magic and only won 58 games for them, but he did play for the Nets up until 2008 as a player. Okay, now this sets up a very interesting dynamic now, because you know that the Brooklyn Nets are an attractive franchise. Okay, they're an attractive place now because you have two all stars, you have two all NBA first teamers in both Durant and both Kyrie Irving, and both are championship experienced players because they both won championships. Okay, now I was reading an article on ClutchPoints.com, and and then something that's really brought up to my attention that the Nets right now are already linking Mark Jackson to be the next head coach after the season. Okay, because according to a number of reporters there too, numerous reporters have kind of saying now that current NBA analyst for ESPN, Mark Jackson, could be the most logical course because the relationship that both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have with Mark Jackson. Okay, so for those of y'all that just temporarily forgotten, Mark Jackson was the coach of the Golden State Warriors and was one of the main founders of the building blocks for both the Curry and Thompson-led teams that won championships in the last decade. Okay, so there was already some players that have already lost some connection with Kenny Atkinson, and the big thing is that the players were lobbying for Mark Jackson to be their head coach even before the start of the season, and it didn't turn out to be the case. Now, this opportunity opens things up now, and the Knicks messed this up big time because they could have hired Mark Jackson there too because of the relationship between KD and Kyrie Irving. If you would have had Mark Jackson as their coach to combine with Sean Marks as their general manager, they would have been in a perfect position to get those two players. But they messed up. So now, because Mark Jackson has ties to the New York Knicks ties to the New York area, because remember, he played high school in New York. He's also played point guard for St. John's University too. So now this sets up to be a very, very good opportunity now for the Nets to go in there and snatch Mark Jackson before anyone else does. All right. Now, unfortunately, he was basically blackballed out of the Golden State job because of certain things that, management did not agree with Mark Jackson, and they somehow, for some reason, they decided to part ways with him for Steve Kerr. Now, it turned out well for them in the long run when they won championships, but the way that they got rid of Mark Jackson was left to be desired. You understand what I'm saying? So now, with this opportunity in the horizon for Brooklyn this year to bring in all the elite coaches now for possible candidates, this is going to be a good chance to get Mark Jackson to make sure to set this right. And I think that with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving going to be ready healthy next year, the Brooklyn Nets right now are in the position now to take over the Eastern Conference again, barring injury next year too as well. But remember, right now, the Brooklyn Nets, the way I see it right now, Jacque Vaughn is just going to be there just for an interim basis, just try to, coach the team for as long as he can, ride the course, okay, to finish out the entire year, to see where they go from there. And then they're going to go through this coaching search and all that. But I'm going to tell you something right now. Mark Jackson is possibly going to be the next guy in charge. And I'm going to stand right here on this channel. I'm going to guarantee you right here on this channel. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't care if I'm wrong. But I guarantee you one thing. I think that Mark Jackson is going to be the next head coach of the Brooklyn Nets because, like I said before, because of the relationship that both KD and Kyrie have with Jackson. And so if you're the Brooklyn Nets manager right now, this is a perfect opportunity to get what the players have wanted, get Mark Jackson as a coach, and then basically make some necessary moves to improve the roster, and you'll be on your way to challenge the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference. You understand what I'm saying? So that's my 2 cents of the situation there too, guys. So hopefully things work out in the long run there too, guys. But I'm going to go ahead and shut it down for now, though, guys. But I wanted to share this news with you guys to make sure to keep you guys heads up on what's been going on around the NBA right now. We're only about a month away from the NBA playoffs, so things are going to be heating up from here on in, though, guys. So much love to you guys. And also, we got March Madness coming up in about 2 weeks away, though, too, guys. So be prepared. We're going to have a lot of stuff on basketball to the scene for both March all the way up towards June, guys. So be prepared for that, though, guys. All y'all. Peace.